was watching Polytech last night, and Alex was actually making fun of Johnny Depp's fake British accent, and that was hilarious. Hey, I haven't even run the intro yet, and I've already got to swing a band hammer.
Where's Steve? Oh, he can't. He doesn't sign into the restream, does he? He just mods on YouTube.
Yeah, I gotta sort him out on that.
Right. Okay.
But I see Dave is with us. All right. Good morning, everybody. Let's do this. And good morning.
Good morning.
It's Friday. It's Firearms Friday.
Yeah, it is. Look,
And we're not doing any DGUs today. We've got some shit to talk about.
Well, yeah, there's too much to get into. Before we get started, though, we won't be on the air on June 5th. So I'm going to tell you happy early Killdozer Day.
Oh, I was supposed to say, why the hell won't we be on the air June 5th? What do we do? Oh, it's Sunday. You're correct. So, yes, happy Killdozer Day. I recommend a hearty family barbecue and maybe drink some Baltica 9s. They taste exactly like a Killdozer.
Man. And maybe watch Count Dankula's Mad Lads on the subject.
It's fantastic. Oh man, I only got through about half of it this morning, but I watched Mad Lads Murder Incorporated. Dude. he does a good job with those. For those of you who aren't familiar, just since you mentioned him, Count Dankula is the Scottish guy that the Brits locked up for making a joke about a dog that does a Hitler salute. And his YouTube show, he basically takes just outrageous characters like the Killdozer story. He did one on Andre the Giant.
Yep.
And he does a series called Mad Lads where he does kind of a deep dive into into interesting historical characters or historical occurrences. And his delivery is... Well, it's hard to follow everything he's saying because he talks, well, maybe not quite so deep, but he's got a thick and very deeply marijuana-colored accent.
Yes. Yes.
He went on with Viva Fry and Barnes Law, and he's on with these two lawyers, one American, one Canadian, and they're talking, pretty serious politics, pretty serious law stuff, and they're on the stream, and all of a sudden he's just sitting there doing his fingers, and you see it's like, and he sticks it back, like, wait a minute, he just lit one up. Barnes and Viva both, you can just see them both like, hell with it, let's go on. And hey, I can't blame him. I mean you got look, Count Dankula on your show, you roll with it.
Yeah, it's like you have you do a comedy special with Dave Chappelle, and then you're shocked that he says offensive things and makes you laugh at things you probably shouldn't laugh at. It's like you realize you hired Dave Chappelle, right?
Right.
So anyhow, but happy Killdozer Day. You know,
like going on the radio with DJ Scotty Spence and expecting not to have somebody wave a bottle of Anal-Ease at you.
I still don't. That's a different thing altogether. But nonetheless, happy Killdozer Day. The thing that was the most amazing about that story to me is I didn't understand that he built the Killdozer in plain view.
Right.
Like, at any point, somebody could have went, hey, what's that big concrete covered tank looking thing there, Marvin? And nope, never did. So, but anyhow, your dad has already correctly identified one of the things we are going to discuss this morning by you saying that the Second Amendment is not absolute.
Send me a link to that article from the Army Times, if you could, please. I'm looking at the Army Times. I don't see an article that references firearms directly. Oh, wait a minute. Whoa. Okay, we're going to get to that in a minute, because these guys should be ejected from military service for acts of treason. I can see that just from the headline. Okay, we're going to start with the funny.
Yeah, funny, but let's just do it.
It's funny. I mean, it is, but it's not.
A 9mm bullet blows the lung out of the body. So the idea is...
Okay, I don't know what's going on with the buttons here. Maybe I needed to reboot that, but...
Dude, I must be doing 9mm wrong. I want the 9mm that actually blow the lungs out of the body. You know how awesome that would be? You want to talk about a deterrent.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing where... Woo! What happened? Well, he broke into my house here. Now his body parts are all over there.
Way over. It's not a shotgun, Joe. It's not a shotgun.
It's a shotgun. Oh my God!
Oh.
I honestly thought about asking you, hey, is there any way that, like, for our Firearms Friday stinger, you could have like emoji like hearts and lungs and brains and stuff flying off the... Yeah.
Suddenly I want to go buy me a 9mm though.
Yeah, like, oh my God. Like
really? Because I mean, my 357, it'll get you through the door. It's kind of the point.
Yeah, but will it blow the lung out of the body?
I don't think so. I mean, the closest I've ever seen to somebody having their lungs blown out, I mean, I've shot dudes with 9mm and with 5.56, and they just kind of hit the ground. But this one time, Rocket Man, Mohammed Faiz,
mm-hmm.
I saw him shoot a dude in the center mass with an RPG, and that got her done. But that was an RPG-7, and I mean, to say that it shot the lungs out of the body, it really shot the torso out from between the limbs.
I was about to say, probably sounds like it would have shot the body out of the body.
There was about a quarter second where there was just, it was just a head, and a couple of arms and legs, and then they just fell down.
It's like a Mortal Kombat fatality.
I guarantee you could not have identified the lungs.
So Steve says this should disqualify every anti-gunner if you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You don't get to make law about it.
Oh, Steve. I don't know that anybody could have more perfectly teed up the next article.
You know, Crowder pointed this out, but it is the very first thing that I thought about. Like, how hard is it to be his Secret Service, who's actually carrying 9mm weapons, okay? Going, oh my God. And I wonder how many of them, because I've met Secret Service guys, they're odd ducks who enjoy some really dark humor, which makes sense given their job.
Well, a lot of the Secret Service guys, they get there after already having been through the kind of military career that produces deep, dark humor. And yet, okay, let me talk about that for just a second. Sergeant Major points out that Joe is a draft dodger, and Joe is a draft dodger, and that's pretty commonly known. The lefties and the other primary contenders, when Trump was running in his primary, kept kept bringing up all this stuff about, oh, well, he's a draft dodger. He's a draft dodger. And, fair play. I mean, Trump got some education deferments and apparently had something about, like, shin splints or something.
Huge bone spur.
Bone spurs. And now, there is a case to be made. There is a case to be made that minor ailments like bone spurs are legitimate disqualifiers to service, color blindness, for example. But nobody mentioned that Joe's a draft dodger. And something to remember there is Democrats don't care what your sins are. Right? Nobody said that Donald Trump was a draft dodger because they were trying to convince Democrats not to vote for him. Your sins, anything that might disqualify you morally, is only a concern for the right. Being a grotesque, evil person is a prerequisite if you want to run for office as a Democrat. They do not have good people. Now, I'm not saying that Trump was an angel, but I'm making the point that nobody talked about Joe being a draft dodger. I mean, I did a little bit on the show, but nobody liked to talk about Joe being a draft dodger during the campaign. And I'd like to point out, basically most of our current politicians over about the age of 50 are draft dodgers. A lot of them. And that brings me to something else that I want to talk about, not today, but I want to mention it today so y'all kind of get the bug in your ear. We've talked about term limits many, many times, and I was watching a Milton Friedman lecture last night, and Friedman argued, rather than term limits, nobody under the age of 60 should be allowed to run for high political office. And I thought, and then he explained, because if you impose term limits, then you're going to get young men who don't have any experience, talent, knowledge, they're not actually qualified for the job, who run for the office and then collect that eternal government retirement. But if you make it that you can't enter office until you're 60, and I might even push that to 70, then the idea is that the term limits don't matter because you're going to be too old or dead to continue rerunning.
Didn't stop Joe
in pretty short order. If Joe were not allowed to enter office until he were 60, then he would not have been there for a half a century.
This is true. I'm just saying, being old, being really old and clearly mentally diminished didn't stop Joe from running.
True.
But look,
and in all fairness, if Joe had been prevented from running until he was 60 and had won, he still would have been there. He's that old. He still would have been there to pass an assault rifle ban in the 90s.
Steve had a great throwaway line earlier. He said, "Oh yeah, Joe Biden dodged the 1812 draft."
Yeah. And Dad points out many veteran politicians are academy graduates who went into the military only to enhance their political resume. And that's a very good point. I've met quite a few academy graduates, and with almost no exceptions, officers are trash. I think of all the officers I've known, I can name 2 off the top of my head that weren't absolutely useless, who did not begin their careers as enlisted men and make the change over to officer after they had already made E6 or 7. I can think of several. We call those Mustangs that began their careers as enlisted men and then went green to gold to become officers. I can think of several of them that were solid dudes, but largely because they were enlisted men before they were officers. Officers are useless. And a lot of officers go on to be politicians because they're useless.
Speaking of useless...
Oh, wow. Way to tee that one up.
Is exactly what the Democrats want to do. Now let's
Oh,
just take
I'm gonna have to back
XL
up a little
6-hour
bit because
bill. Here's a
I
gun I
showed it to
carry
you.
every single day to protect myself, my family, my wife, my home. This is a XL 6-hour P365. Comes with a 15-round magazine. Here's a 7-round magazine, which would be less than what would be lawful under this bill if this bill were to become law. It doesn't fit. So this gun would be banned.
I hope the
under
gun
Democrat
is not
bill.
loaded.
I'm at my house. I can do whatever I want with my guns.
There's a
Yeah. So that one, that if you don't recognize that voice, let me just clue you in. That's Sheila Jackson Lee, the Democrat from Texas, who said that the AR-15 fires a 50 caliber bullet and weighs as much as 10 boxes that you might be moving. Dumb as a box of rocks.
Don't insult rocks that way.
And I want to point out, this woman is so stupid. Okay, we didn't actually see the man clear the gun. I think it's probably reasonable to assume that, I mean, this is a gun guy, a pro gun guy, and he's got his several firearms laid out on his desk, obviously for the particular purposes of this demonstration. Pretty safe bet that he's already cleared them and had the magazines in them, precisely because he's making the point that this magazine fits this weapon, and if they ban this magazine and we go to the 7-round that will not fit, then clearly they've effectively banned the firearm itself, right? Before she said, "I hope it's not loaded." Okay, I got a couple of things here. Before she said those words, he clearly removed the magazine. And like I said...
Well, and he had that trigger discipline.
Yeah, he's got his booger hook off the bank switch. Actually, I'm going to ignore Steve on that one because it's a partial clip, and your point is invalid.
Well,
with the rest of the
actually...
context. But they saw him right there. He removed the magazine from the weapon. So it's possible there's still one in the chamber. I suspect that is not the case. But he's still got his booger hook off the trigger, so it doesn't matter if there's one in the chamber. The man's got his trigger discipline. He's handling the weapon safely. And he's conducting a demonstration. And those of us who handle firearms and do demonstrations with firearms do it safely and carefully, and there are things that are done that way. But the other thing that bothers me here, the other thing I want to point out, I'm gonna scroll back a little bit just to kind of show you a little more context for the whole clip. Okay, so this is a hearing happening in the House, and the rep is calling in over like Skype or something. You see down here in the middle, they bring him up on the monitor here, right? And then the C-SPAN cuts over to just the actual feed
yep.
of him. So, they're sitting in the House as they are listening to his presentation, and then they pull him up on the monitor. In fact, you can see it right there when it switches over. They actually pull him up on the monitor for everybody to see, and he's giving a presentation. And this, I'm reclaiming my time, shitbrick from Texas, Democrat woman.
That wasn't Sheila Jackson.
Oh no, she did it too.
Oh, she did it too?
Oh yeah. It became like the memo went out. Do this. It wasn't just one obnoxious Democrat. They all started doing it. It was like, hey, here's the plan. You're just going to stop people from talking by screaming, "I'm reclaiming my time, I'm reclaiming my time." And they did it over and over again.
I would do poorly if I was ever subpoenaed in front of Congress.
Yes. But she's the same woman who would interrupt you generally, who would pitch a temper tantrum about being interrupted during her time in one of these hearings. is just going to casually, I hope it's not loaded. Shut up, bitch! You couldn't tell salt from cyanide without tasting it, you stupid bitch. And you sure as hell don't have the intellectual capacity to be arguing about gun control.
Your dad made reference to the speaker from last night. Well, actually, I think we should go back.
I think we're gonna address the conformity conversation quite separately and later, because it's rather a large one, and I want to have a conversation with Ken before I do that.
Yes, because he made some good points, though.
Now,
we talk a lot about whether or not these people are actually stupid, or they play at being this stupid because it's convenient. She comes across as actually being that stupid.
Yes.
Like, you just reach a certain point where it's like, some people, they get things done with sheer force of will. I think she gets things done because she's too dumb to understand that certain things won't work. Like it said, she's like a character in a Terry Pratchett novel.
I just swung the band hammer at a Twitch bot for the third. I'm playing whack-a-mole over here with the Twitch bots. I was gonna do this one about Mondaire Jones, but I'm gonna skip it because we're running low on time now, and I want to get back to this stupid bitch. Jesus Christ. The Stacey Abrams coalition. So, Washington, the House Judiciary Committee. Guys, if any of y'all were watching Polytech last night, I hope, or I'm sorry, the TPS report. If anybody was watching the TPS report last night.
Pluto was a planet when I was a kid.
Alex was saying the House will pass something soon. And Danny asked, well, how soon do you think? He said, well, it's got to be before the authority switches in November, because they're going to lose everything. And he's right. And, oh, hey, look, Alex, you were 100% right. June 2nd, 2022. Oh, look, it's the 3rd. The House Judiciary Committee passed a package of gun control measures Thursday after several hours of heated debate. Hey, didn't we cover last week that the Democrats in the House blocked a school safety bill that Republicans put forward?
I thought that was the Senate, but your point stands.
Look at their faces, said Rep. Sheila Jackson. I don't know what a box is, Lee. Referring to the photos of the Uvalde victims that were posted on a board. How can you in good conscience... Listen, if you're in Texas, I want you guys to understand something. This is important. You look at people like Sheila Jackson Lee, right? You look at people like this, like Joe Biden, right? You can have all the doubts you want to have about the legitimacy of his election. Have those doubts, but this is true, certainly. No matter what the number of people that voted for Joe is, they did. There are some people that voted for him. There are people who voted for this woman, for Sheila Jackson Lee. Those people are not qualified to vote because no one intelligently informed on the choice they're making chooses to cause themselves harm unless they have a serious mental illness.
Hey, and can I just point something out? It says that the committee passed the Democrat-backed Protecting Our Kids Act. Okay, shit right up your nose. Like, that's... The one thing this bill won't do is protect kids. You know how I know? It's named the Protecting Our Kids Act.
Right.
Which links several gun control measures together. The proposal raises the minimum age to 21 for certain rifles and shotguns. It also aims to prevent gun trafficking and requires all guns to be traceable. Dude, I thought all guns were already traceable. I thought it was illegal to buy a firearm that doesn't have a serial number on it.
That is correct.
Don't you trace things with serial numbers?
That is correct.
How are they going to make the gun more traceable?
No idea. And look, this is not complicated. The Constitution is very clear on this, and if the Constitution were not sufficiently clear, the Heller decision is. By passing this bill, every signatory to its passage has committed a crime and should be prosecuted for committing that crime. Now, at a minimum, the crime that they have committed is by violating the civil liberties of U.S. citizens. They have violated Section 242, which is a prohibition on the violation of civil liberties under the color of law. A crime whose punishment is up to and including death, depending on the severity of the infraction and the authority of the offender. Which is to say that the higher your office and the higher the harm caused, the more likely it is that infraction is death. That is, under the codified law, what this crime is. And I would go so far as to argue that this crime is an act of treason. This bill is an act of treason. And I say that advisedly. The U.S. Constitution, under the Second Amendment and the 10th Amendment, which restricts those powers not explicitly enumerated to the federal government, to the states and its subordinate constituencies. This is an authority which does not belong to the representatives in the House of Representatives. The Congress cannot do this. And every member in that room held up their hand and swore an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States of America. Taking actions, legal, legislative actions, which are in stark violation of that oath, is also a crime in and of itself. And the breaking of oath and the offer of aid and comfort to the enemies of the United States of America is a crime. And more importantly, this crime of treason, it is the only crime which is so important and so dangerous that it was enshrined in the Constitution. It's not even in an amendment. Article 3, Section 3. Treason shall be defined and prosecuted on the testimony of 3 eyewitnesses, shall be defined as the provision of aid and comfort to the enemy of the United States of America and to the Constitution, and shall be punishable not by up to and including, but rather punishable by full stop death. And yes, I am calling for the enforcement of the law by the government that we pay to entrust with that authority, where criminals have obviously engaged in a crime with the predictable intended final consequence of causing the death of American citizens by making them less safe in their homes and public spaces.
I'm going to give you a little bit of pushback, but not the way that you might anticipate.
Please do.
I don't think, my theory from earlier, how they have no intention of actually passing meaningful gun control legislation, this is all theater. They passed a bill called Protecting Our Kids Act and included perfectly reasonable provisions in it. Like maybe raising the age to buy certain weapons.
I want to address that.
And it also aims to prevent gun trafficking. Who has a problem with preventing gun trafficking? It's already a crime. But they know that it's not going to go anywhere. This is going to be um, the just theater basically. Oh, did they make straw purchases extra illegal as if they weren't already illegal?
They did actually. But more importantly, it says certain in the article. It says right there, the proposal raises the minimum purchase age to 21 for certain rifles and shotguns. By certain rifles and shotguns, what they mean is semi-automatic centerfire rifles or semi-automatic centerfire shotguns. So basically what they mean is all modern long guns. Not certain. All, with a very, very narrow set of exceptions. Right, when they use that language in the article here for certain rifles and shotguns, it sounds like they're trying to make it sound like, oh well, they're just raising the age on a couple of rifles and shotguns that are extra super scary and dangerous. The ones that are being affected are going to be the exception, not the rule, when it is quite the opposite. They will be the rule and not the exception. The exception are going to be rimfire weapons, and that's just not it.
Is there anything else? Because I was looking at some of the other stuff in the bill.
After 8:00.
But it's after 8:00, so that's why I was asking if there was
We may
anything
just have
else.
to come back and talk about this bill later.
Rebel Jack says, when we develop phasers, will they limit battery size?
No, they'll be solar powered.
You know, I sincerely believe that prohibition, not just on firearms, but on many, many, many things, will likely evaporate in our lifetime because it will be absolutely unenforceable. One day, 3D printing technology will get good enough where having things like firearms get banned? Like, what are you going to do? Like, ban everybody's 3D printer?
3D technology is actually at that level now, but the 3D printers that can print at that level are prohibitively expensive. We could buy one. In fact, we could order one on Amazon for about $12,000.
Oh, that's all just 12 grand?
Yeah.
See, but I could get like 3 or 4 AR-15s for that same 12 grand and just have the AR-15.
Or you could print 30 for about another $1,000 in material.
Which, stop, I can only get so horny. Stop.
You know what else you could print on those? Magazines.
Right. But anyhow, that's I look forward to that day. Because that will be the day.
Okay, so here's the plan. I need you guys to start sending me money. I'm going to go buy one of those expensive printers. I'm going to start printing magazines on one of those nice expensive 3D printers, and we're going to name the company Magazine Printers Incorporated. Printers of fine magazines. And every time we mail them out to you, they'll be packaged 4x4 in an otherwise unmarked brown paper bag that is labeled reading material from Magazine Publishers Incorporated.
Sort of like how if you sign up for a porn subscription, they always bill your credit card something innocuous.
Right.
Like,
it was a long walk for a bad pun, and I'm deeply satisfied with it.
all right, it's Friday.
Hell yeah,
Safety
Dan!
brief.
I will sell you a magazine subscription.
Oh, and
We're gonna have to work on that.
and Dave agrees with me. You did good. You went like 3 or 4 days without banging the desk.
Oh yeah, I try. Sometimes it just has to be done. Sometimes you got to stomp that foot so the privates pay attention. So
Safety brief.
speaking of NCO stuff,
You still can't stop me from frying bacon naked. I want to live my best life.
you ever read the story about the guy that was cooking breakfast naked? His wife comes in and she's so happy about him cooking. She's so excited about the whole prospect. He's got 2 pans going, one with bacon in it and one with blueberry pancakes in it.
Okay.
And she gets down on her knees in front of him and starts to
Yes.
very, very politely say thank you. And while she's at it, she shifts a little bit, puts her knee on his toe. He jerks back. She loses her balance, reaches up to grab the stove for her balance, accidentally grabs the pan with the bacon in it, pulls it over. It goes down her back, and now they're a lesbian couple.
That was your other long walk for a joke was better.
It was.
Sorry.
You're right. You're
Sorry.
right.
You haven't convinced me. I'm still going to fry bacon naked.
Y'all be safe out there. And if you do make it out to the range this weekend, remember, keep your booger hook off the bang switch. Right? It's safer in your fart filter until you know what you're going to destroy. As soon as you get on that range, understand your battle buddies to the left and right have the same responsibility as dictated from the tower. Once you move that selector switch from safe to semi, it is your responsibility to watch your lane, to cover your sector of fire. All right? And if it's not clear, this range safety brief is an analogy for liberty generally. Keep your nose in your own damn business. Don't drive drunk. We'll see you Monday. Love you guys. Be safe.